Typed in the first item. Can you see what I typed in? And again, you're looking in your question box. You should see it. All right, fantastic. So I'm going to mute out again for just a second. I'm going to type in 3 more things. Okay, we're back. So if you've just joined the room and it's been really quiet, it's because I've been typing a bunch of stuff into the question window for all of you to, so that everybody has the same information and everybody, if they didn't catch it at the very beginning of the class, it'll be sitting in your window when you log in. So there's 3 videos, 3 TED Talks, if you will. TED is a great organization that puts out innovative information from innovative people across the planet. And those 3 videos have to do with algorithmic trading, the subject of HFTs, and I think that you'll gain a lot of insight by watching those. Finally, nanex.net. That is a great research website, and you can get just about as deep as you want to into the subject of algorithmic trading through the research that's being done by this gentleman that owns this website. And if you go to the Segredo Quants website page, you'll see some information under, I believe it's the demo page when you're wanting to learn more about the quant. And it shows from Nanex, this company, it shows a graph, but it's a live graph, and it's kind of like a video, if you will, that shows the increase of HFT activity from 2007 to 2012. So enjoy those resources, and I'll continue to dig and find other things that I think would be beneficial for each of you to help increase your understanding of quants and algorithmic trading and HFTs, so that it can help you understand what it is you're looking at when this stuff is happening real time in the marketplace. All right, so like I said, let's just dive in really quickly here. I think if we're lucky, we'll get through everything that I would like to share with you tonight. So just to confirm, all of you can see my NinjaTrader charts, correct? You see one on one side and one on the other? Yep. Okay, great. Thank you. So Robert, you're asking a question, is Barbara going to add the DAX to Segredo? I don't know. If you go to the help page on segredoquants.com and email that question, you'll get an answer for sure, which I guess brings to mind for those of you that have Segredo type questions or you need Segredo type support, if you're typing those into the shadow support at shadowtraders.com website, you won't get an answer anymore. You know, for regulations reasons, it has to be separate. So just keep that in mind. And it makes sense, right? If it's a Segredo question, you should be sending it through a Segredo medium. So if you go to the help page on the Segredo website, you'll see it. So what I want to start with is what you're currently taking a look at. I think it's important to share with you why I have the charts built and set up the way that I do, because I think that that'll help you in executing the perfect trade if that's what you would like to do. So on the left-hand side of my chart, you see a 5-minute. We have the euro from today up. This is today's replay screen. We have the 5-minute chart, and then on the right-hand side I have the 1-minute chart. And the reason that I use a 5 and 1 is because Barbara said that you'll get a great perfect trade entry when the 1 and the 5-minute charts are in sync. So I'm sure that there are variances. I've received questions over the past couple weeks. Well, what about the 3-minute and 5-minute, or what about the 3 and the 15? So I haven't personally experimented with any other time frame except for the 1-minute and the 5-minute. So for those of you that have that question, I encourage you to launch your own experiment, and feel free to share the results with the group as you come across them. In my path as a trader, one of the things that I've had to continuously do over the years is to fight myself to make things simple. I like simple, and I've also received some coaching from Melanie over the years, and one of the things that she said is, she took a look at my charts one day and she asked me, do you use all these things? And I told her, I really don't. She said, do you use these as confirmations? How are you using them? And we had this conversation, and she said, look, if you're not using it to determine a trade entry, then get it off your chart. So that's precisely what I did. And so what I've done for the 5-minute chart here on the left, I've done for the 1-minute chart. So the setup is identical. The settings are the same on each, and all you see here, of course, are the pivots, because I like to know where the pivots are. You also see all of the moving averages, but of course, as you know, on the 5-minute chart, we don't use the 200 moving average, but it's definitely on the 1-minute chart for obvious reasons. The only other thing that I have added to this is the HMA, and I've made no adjustments to this other than to make this wider than these moving averages. I really wanted it to stand out. I like obvious. When your moment shows up and you're sitting here trying to determine, am I going to or am I not going to get into this trade? The obvious things are the things that you appreciate the most, or they're at least the things I appreciate the most. So seeing that the HMA has become a key indicator in what I use to determine an entry, I decided that I'd make it wider. And then down below, you'll see that I have the MACD. And by the way, before we skip, let's go up top. Some of you are mentioning that you're using the SMA regions, and I'll tell you, the only reason that I use that is not because I can't tell that, gee, we're only going to go short here, so I'm really going to need an extra confirmation by making this red. I keep it on here for aesthetic reasons. I think it looks nice. So that's really the only significance, and I would say that that's the same thing down here with the colored MACD. I just think it looks nice. So, but down here, excuse me, down here on the MACD, the only other adjustments that I've made, excuse me, I'm going to take a drink of water. The only adjustments that I've made is I've made these bars a little bit wider. And again, I like for it to be obvious. So we have the MACD on both the 5-minute chart and the 1-minute chart. And then we also have below that in the third panel, we have the stochastics, all three of them, the 20, the 50, and the 100. And no modifications have been done on this. This is just the straight up, shadow traders usage with no changes whatsoever. Now there's a reason so now let's take a look at, are there any questions about, does anything, here's a better question, is there anything unclear about what I have set up for you on these two charts? My Segredo chart to determine an entry, and then I'll explain to you why we use that as well. After I'm done right here for right now, bear with me for a second as I make some modifications. What I'm going to do here is set it up for you as exactly how I would set it up as if I were going to be trading. So on the right hand side, We have the 1 minute quant chart, and I'll do the same thing with the 5 minute. Okay, so now let's talk about what's on this quant chart and why. So one of the things that you'll find is you'll get to set up the charts exactly how you want to, how to make your own adjustments, if you will. I like to zoom out on the 5 minute chart so that I can really see what's going on here and here. To give you an understanding as to what each one of the items on this chart mean really quickly, we have this gray line here, which is the fast moving average, and it closely mimics the action of the 13 moving average on the NinjaTrader charts. This moving average right here is your HMA. Okay, when the HMA is red, you want to look for a short entry. When the HMA is green, you want to look for a long entry. Now you'll notice the cool thing about the quant system is if you can count from 1 to 9, then you can use this system very, very easily. So as you'll see, it counts from 1 to 5 on this, and then it ends and starts a new cycle, and it starts back over from 1. If the quant doesn't go all the way up to 8, then it just means that the cycle's starting over. Okay, just because it starts off at 1 doesn't mean it's going to end at 8 every time. And so what you'll find is that the numbers that are up here match the numbers below. Okay, and down below here you can see 2 different colors of oscillators. You can see red. Okay, and what red means is that there is selling strength and you want to look for a short opportunity. And then the yellow oscillator indicates a possible reversal, and you'll want to get in early for a short entry. I'm sorry, a long entry. Now, on the oscillator, the combination of colors to oscillator that you're looking for, especially specifically with the perfect trade, is you're looking for green numbers on yellow oscillators to go long. Okay, you don't want to do yellow on red, and you don't want to do red on green. You only want to do yellow on green. Okay, now over here there's some other colored oscillators, and these look a lot different. They look like they're more of a mountain, where this looks like it's more underwater, if this were the water level. So what the green indicates on the oscillator is that there's buying strength and you want to look for an opportunity to go long. On the blue oscillators, what it says is a possible reversal is coming up. You want to get in position for an early short entry. And again, the color combinations that you want to pay attention to as it pertains specifically to the perfect trade is red numbers with blue oscillators. You don't want to do green numbers with blue oscillators. Green with blue means sit on your hands, just like green on red would mean sit on your hands, or red on yellow would mean sit on your hands. And of course red on red, because we're looking for just this combination right here. Okay, some of you are coming up with some questions. Let me take a look really quickly. Okay, Scott, to answer your question, the gray line closely mimics the 13 moving average. Robert, your question, do you find that the euro and the yen move together or opposite to each other? So nothing is ever always, okay? But often what I'll see is the currencies move together, and sometimes it's the euro and the yen that move together, and sometimes it's the Aussie dollar and the yen move together. Those are the ones that I'm most intimate with. And this morning it looked like the euro and the yen were kind of moving in sync. Not exactly, there's going to be some separation there, but they were mimicking each other. And you're welcome. Okay, Peter. Peter has a question for me. Why are you showing the 1-minute quant chart? When you first started, you were only going off the 5-minute chart. Well, I don't know if y'all will recall this, but if you look at the 1-minute chart on the quant, it'll only pull up that day's data. So it stops at like 7 or 8 o'clock. In fact, there was a couple of entries from really, really early in the morning on the euro that, I think it was the euro, that I wanted to pull up, but I didn't have the benefit of the 1 minute, and so I didn't think to add them to today's class. But ideally, you want to use the 1 and the 5 together. Hopefully that answers your question, Peter. Tom, so the blue oscillator equals possible short and green oscillator equals possible long. That's correct. So to repeat, and by the way, you can find this information on the Quant website, but the green oscillator indicates buying strength, and you want to look for a long entry, and then the blue oscillators indicate a possible reversal. You're looking for a short entry. And then again, just to repeat, since we're talking about oscillators, and then we'll move on. Over here, the yellow oscillators indicate a possible reversal and the opportunity for an early entry to go long. And then the red oscillators indicate selling strength, and you're looking for a short entry. Now, here's the concept of a perfect trade, okay? And I really like this because it's simple. The whole key to the perfect trade, this is not a trade that's just going to show up every 20 to 30 minutes. It's something that you have to be patient and you have to wait for. And for some of you, that may be a challenge. Because some of you want to pull the trigger every 15 to 25 minutes. And that's totally cool. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. But you know, I just kind of want to give you an understanding as to what to expect with this trade in particular, because what it is a perfect trade essentially is a gap close that's going into a reversal. And then, as we know from Melanie's class, the second that the 13 crosses the 50 moving average, now we have a new trend. So that takes time in the market, right? And you know, for those of you that have watched the moving average crossover videos, or you've gone through the information on the self-paced course, you know how this works, and you know it takes time. Sometimes the 13 moving average will cross over the 20, and then the price action will go up to the 50 moving average, which is this one right here, and it'll go back down. And then it'll dilly-dally, and then it'll come back up, and it'll go back in the direction. So what I'm saying is, with this perfect trade, remember earlier how I said I like for things to be obvious? Well, that's the one thing that I like about this trade in particular, is that it's obvious. And what happens is this. The price action has been going in one direction for a while. I like that, okay? Like, for example, let's just, let's minimize this really quickly. If you look here on this 5-minute chart on the euro, this price action's been going down for quite some time. Now for me, this is absolutely obvious to me what's going on. And because I like to do the perfect trade, I get excited when I see this. This is, remember how, you know, for those of you that like to do clear trades, when you're sitting in a fist, you're absolutely excited because you know what comes after a fist, a fan. And a fan is your moment to shine. It's your moment to hop in and get however many ticks are comfortable for you and then get out. Well, for me, sitting in a fist causes me a ton of anxiety because my whole life I've wanted to be first. And so I lost, you know, quite a bit of money trying to be perfect and be first on these clear trades, and oftentimes I was the guy that would enter the sexy candle, or I would enter the fake out entry. And I got sick and tired of that. And so, when Barbara shared the perfect trade with everybody, I got really, really jazzed about that, because part of me is a clear trader, part of me is a gap closer, and I think you kind of get the best of both worlds with this perfect trade. So, but back to this. The first part that happens with the perfect trade is you sit and wait. You wait for all this price action to do exactly what it's going to do. And essentially what you're looking at right here on this 5-minute chart, even though there's not a 200 moving average, this is what we would call a bearish, because it's going short, a bearish fan. And that just means that each one of these moving averages, the 13, the 20, the 50, and the 100, they're fanning out like fingers fan out on your hand, okay? And again, all that tells you is that pretty soon, if you're patient enough and you can wait, then you'll be given the opportunity for a perfect trade. So not only is it obvious up here, it's obvious down here. And as we know, the MACD likes to move in waves, and it moves in cycles. So it goes all the way down to the bottom, and then it'll go back up, and it'll cross over this the zero line, and then it'll go up high. So I like this because it's obvious. The other thing I like, down in the third panel, is the stochastics. They follow suit. And so, the 3 stochastics, when they go down and they're hanging out below the 20 line, which is right here, I know what's coming. I know at some point, if I'm patient enough, these 3 are going to come up, and at the same time, this blue line on the MACD is going to start to trend upward, and at the same time, this HMA is going to turn from red to green, and at the same time, this price action is going to move, and we're going to see this thing take off and give us a perfect trade. Now the price action obviously looks a little bit different on the 1-minute chart, because, as Melanie says, that's kind of the jungle. So the good thing about having the 5-minute chart and the 1-minute chart is it gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you a micro view on the 1 and kind of a macro view on the 5. Andrew wants to know, do I ever use the TDI? No, I don't. I've seen Barbara use it, I think, in conjunction with the NG, but I've never used it. I'm sure it's a fantastic indicator, but I've gotten quite comfortable with this setup. It is working for me, and so one of the lessons that I'm being forced to learn on my path in trading is to continuously do what works, regardless of all of the other cool indicators or different trades or ideas, etc. And they're all exciting. They're all new, right? I mean, that's the coolest thing about this game is you're in charge. You're at the helm. You're at the wheel. So you can be a perfect trader. You can be a gap closer. You can be a clear trader. You can be whatever, but you're going to find something that works for you, and whatever that is, stick with it and do it over and over and over again. And like I say, allow your goal to manifest. Melanie talks about this week in and week out. Do not try to become a millionaire by Friday by doing the following: adding an extra trade to your day. If you agree that you're only going to do 2 trades a day, but man, you could reach your goal so much faster if you just add a 3rd one, don't do it. So whatever works for you, do it over and over and over again. So you could see, back to the perfect trade and the whole concept of it, the price action goes down and down and down and down and down, and then at some point it tires out. And as we can see here, it starts to get tired after it has penetrated the S4 pivot. And as you can see, it starts to go sideways. Now, for some of you, this is where you're going to lose a lot of money, okay? Or you're going to cause yourself to get prematurely gray, or you're going to cause yourself a nice solid case of high blood pressure, because you get into the trade too early, and let's say you got in on this green candle because you just knew, hey, it's been going down for about, looks like about an hour or so. I'll go ahead and just see if I can whop a few ticks, and then all of a sudden with momentum this red bar comes in and it scares you. You click out and you lost however many ticks you lose there. So here's the next part of the perfect trade, and this is what's going to take us to the setup. Okay, let me pull up the, that's not it. There we go. Now, so here we are. I've set it on this time on purpose. And the reason is, and Melanie talks about this. She says, practice the moment of entry. Don't sit and practice the entire morning session and you sitting through the ups and the downs and the ins and the outs and the gap closes even though you're not a gap closer and the clear trades even though you're not a clear trader. Go to the moment, at just at or a few minutes before your setup is coming to you. So what I decided to do was to take a look at this entry, which was today at my time, which was 1:15, which is 2:15 Eastern Standard Time. Now, one of the things that we're looking at on the 5-minute chart is we want the 5-minute chart and the 1-minute chart to be in sync. What does that mean? Well, what we want is we want these three stochastics to start to trend upward towards the 80 line, which is up here, but you can't see it. We want this blue line on the MACD to start trending upward. And here's a key teaching moment. Be patient. Allow this to start trending upward. The cool thing about a perfect trade is it's part of the algorithm. It's reversing. So there is time to get in. It's not like a starter pistol goes off, and if you didn't get in right when the starter pistol goes off, then you're in trouble. It's not like that. You have some time. So you're looking for, and then obviously you would like to see some green candles. Okay, so MACD trending upward, 3 stochastics trending up towards the 80, the 80 line, green HMA with green candles. Now, since we're talking about NinjaTrader charts, let's just minimize these for ease. Here's what you're going to see over here. We want to see the MACD on this chart also trending upward, but we do not want it to be above this line. If it's above this line, but it's not, and it's trending up on this line, you don't have a trade. And the reason is these are not in sync. Is that clear? So again, if this MACD on the 1-minute chart is up above the center line, you sit on your hands and you wait for one of two possibilities. For the MACD to come back down and come back up and sync with the 5, or you're waiting for the MACD on the 5-minute chart to come up above the 0 line and get in sync with this as it would be up above, and for them to come down together. And hopefully that'll keep you out of some really nice fake outs or trades where you sit there for 30 minutes and it goes sideways and you're like, should I stay in? Should I get out? We're trying to avoid that at all costs. And just like we want the 3 stochastics going, as closely together, if they're close together, that's fantastic. And going up to the 80 at the same time, that's fantastic. Well, we want to see these 3 stochastics also going up towards this 80 line, but not above it. So if the stochastics reach the 80 line, but they haven't reached over here and they're just now starting to go up, don't let that fake you out. Just sit and wait for a better trade. There's always a better trade, right? Melanie and Barbara have proved this, and Cheryl has as well. Time in and time out. I mean, look, this thing goes on all day long. Now, granted, not all of us have a lifestyle where we can sit here and just stare at it for 24 hours, nor would we want to do that. But you know what? You're going to get an abundance of trades. I can promise you this. But you just got to be patient and honestly quite picky. I would like for each of you to start getting picky and making this market and these charts in front of you give you the setup that you desire, that you demand to enter a trade comfortably with certainty and confidence. Okay, Alba, you would like for me to repeat the 1 minute side entry again of the MACD. All right, so just like on the 5 minute chart, I mean, everybody can tell we're looking for an entry to go long here. I think that that's obvious. So we want, just like on the 5 minute chart, we want this blue line to start going up towards the 0 line. We want the same thing happening over here. However, on the 1 minute chart, if this blue line is crossed this, and now you're thinking you have an entry, you don't have an entry because these MACDs are not in sync. Okay, Oscar, this is a good question. Am I anticipating the MACD cross on the 5 minute chart? I guess technically I am, you know, if we want to be technical about it, but there's so many other confirmations that I'm not really worried about it. Some of you, and by the way, since Oscar, you brought that up, let's talk about this. Some of you are not going to feel comfortable entering a trade. And by the way, I've been wanting to use this particular item. So sorry I haven't been using it. How's this? Is this red dot better? Is that better than using the mouse? Y'all can see this, right? Cool. Okay. So Oscar, back to your question. Am I anticipating the cross on the MACD? I'm not really looking for a cross per se in order to enter, but what I was getting ready to say is some of you will not feel comfortable entering this trade or comfortable that the trend is actually going upwards until you see the cross, and that's totally fine. It's absolutely fine. Because what you'll see when we pull up the Segredo charts in just a second is you're looking for a 1, a 2, or a 3 to enter. Okay? Now that tells you, especially because the 5 minute chart, by the way, the 5 minute chart is my trigger chart. You know how Melanie talks about trigger charts? Well, the 5 minute chart is my trigger chart. The 1 minute chart I'm using for matchy-matchy. And again, what I'm looking for is for these two to be in sync. So back to what we're looking for on the 1 minute chart. We want the MACD, the blue line on the MACD, for a long entry to be trending upward, just like we need it to be doing that on the 5. And we want these 3 stochastics to be going towards the 80 line. If they have passed the 80 line and I see what I need to see on my 5 minute trigger chart to take an entry, I don't have an entry. I'm going to wait because I want these to be trending towards the 80 but not touching it on both charts. Okay, Esther, are the charts that you're currently showing the beginning of the perfect trade? Yes, well, it's setting up for that, yeah. And I am technically still waiting for it. And I'll tell you what I'm waiting for. And it's kind of hard, but I need a bar timer. I haven't made this modification yet. I need to move this up above so that my timer is up here. That way I can see whether this is pointing up still or sideways. You know, because in the moment, you don't want to be sitting there wondering, well, how many degrees is that? Is it sideways? Is it up? What are we doing? But I will say, if you're patient, this will be real obvious. It will show itself to you, and it will trend upward. Okay, so the more and more that you see these two move together, the more and more you're going to know what to expect. So some of you can take a look at a 15-minute chart, and you can tell me exactly what the 5-minute chart is doing, and the 3-minute chart, and the 1-minute chart, and you'll get to that level of proficiency with these two charts as well. Because oftentimes what you'll see, especially when this 5-minute is gap closing, is the price action's either going between the 13 and the 50, or it's just at it, and we know that a 1350 cross is getting ready to occur. Now again, just like Melanie says on the Thursday night, which are now during the day classes, when this 13 crosses the 50, that's when we know a new trend has begun. So let's cover really quickly what we look for. I guess I have to switch it back in order to make a selection. Now let's take a look at the relationship between the 1 minute quant chart and the 5 minute. Okay, we've talked about the ninja charts. Now let's talk about this. Like I said, we're looking for a 1 or a 2 or a 3. And we want yellow oscillators with green numbers. We want a green HM. And ideally, we want this crossing the fast-moving average, which closely mimics the 13, but doesn't perfectly mimic it. Okay? That's what we're looking for on the 5 in order to pull the trigger. On the 1 minute chart, since the cross has already begun of the 13 and the 20, that's why you see the oscillators on top rather than below, okay? And what we're looking for over here is, on the 1 minute chart, we want to see green oscillators with green numbers, because that indicates buying strength and it indicates going long. Now remember, we're just using the 1 for matchy-matchy. This is our trigger chart. So we're looking for 1s, 2s, and 3s with yellow oscillators on green numbers. But over here we want to see green on green. And once we see that, we're going to feel good about making an entry. I've tried my hardest. I could spend lots and lots of time, and we could waste lots and lots of time to move these charts perfectly to right side of the edge. But if you've ever messed around with these charts, you know it's quite difficult. So as you can see, if you look down below and realize that these 2 times don't match, that's because the Segredo Quant is set at Eastern Standard Time and my charts are set at Central Time, okay? What I'm going to do is we're going to play this on replay now. I knew that would happen. And we're going to watch this together. Tom, this is a good question. What would you recommend for those who know the rules but break them continuously? Show up to Melanie's class tomorrow. I will let her know that you'll be there, and I'll make her pull out the wooden spoon. No, but seriously, Tom, you know, here's the lesson that I've learned on my path, because just like others who have done this, I've broken, and this is, I'm not bragging on the fact that I've made so many mistakes, but you know, it's inevitable when you're on your path and you're trying to master something, anything. I've broken all the rules in Barb's book, the PDF, you know. I've broken all of them at least twice just to make sure that that she was accurate in what she was saying. Tom, you're going to reach a point where you're going to get tired. If those mistakes are costing you money, you're going to get sick and tired of paying higher and higher tuition rates for each one of the mistakes that you make. You will reach a point where you're like, you know what? I'm having to fund my account again because I've broken this rule again. So all I can say, Tom, is I think that, you know, everybody runs into their limit at a different time. You know, for me, I've been quite humbled. I have funded my account on multiple occasions. I'm a real trader just like you, and I have broken the rules. So all I can say to you, Tom, is stop breaking them. I mean, what are you trying to prove by continuing to break them again and again? What are you trying to prove by doing that? Chuck asked a good question. On the 1 minute Segredo, green on green, down here, can you use any number 1 through 8? Well, we're looking for 1s, 2s, and 3s over here on the 5 minute chart. And as we know, the cycle in the quant goes from 1 to 8. 8 means that the cycle is coming close to an end, and it could also signify a possible gap close. So if I see a 6, a 7, or an 8 on the 1 minute chart, I may not take the trade. I may get a little nervous. And my new rule is if there's any shadow of a doubt or any uncertainty or any nervousness, I just don't take the trade. I would rather look at the one that's obvious that says, you're crazy if you don't jump into this right now. The stars have aligned, as Melanie would talks about. Hope that answers your question.
It's too late to be. You might go. Stay safe.
Bill, why has the Segredo room been closed down a few days this week? I have no idea. Go to the help screen and fill out a ticket and ask them. I wasn't aware of that, but again, I work from 8 to 5, so I'm not able to attend that room. Eddie, do you recommend using more than 2 time frames? I recommend, Eddie, that you use as many time frames as you need in order to enter the trade with confidence and certainty. Some of you, it's going to take seeing it on a 1 and a 5 and a 15, or a 3 and a 5 and a 15, or any variation. I use the 1 and the 5 because that's what my master, who is Barbara, said to use. And I've repeated and I've just drilled this thing over and over and over and over again, and I'm real comfortable with it. So I don't use any other time frames. Um, and a lot like Tom's example before. If Barb says to do something, I try not to add to it anymore. I've done a lot of adding, and it's cost me some money. And I'm trying not to see how much I can donate this year to whomever it is that takes me out when I make a mistake. IPA, do I ever use a trailing stop? No, I don't. Tom wants to go over the requirements for entries on the 5-minute Segredo. Okay, to keep it simple. To go long, you're looking for a green HMA. You're looking for a 1, a 2, or a 3, preferably a green bar, and you want this HMA to be crossing, preferably, the fast-moving average. Down below, you want to see yellow oscillators on green numbers.
That's all. The 5-minute, nothing wrong with that.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and press play on this. By the way, last week the replay caused some bandwidth issues. I don't know if that's going to happen this week. What I've done is, if you can notice my screen, the borders and everything, it looks like the 1982 version of Office. I followed Cheryl's advice and basically rigged my machine to give me the best possible performance rather than having this look like the newest possible, greatest, sexiest, most aesthetic looking version of Office. So hopefully we won't run into that problem this week. Now, I'm waiting for, and you can start to see this MACD starting to move up a little bit. Okay? I'd like to see this MACD trend up a little bit more. I'd like to see this 20 commit and go up towards the 80 line. And I'd like to see these 3 stochastics go up before I get into this trade. So, if we're a perfect trader, we've been waiting all this time for the price action to go down and exhaust. Now it's going sideways. And now what we need to train ourselves to do is to sit and chill and wait. Okay? Now the time is 1:15, and so it's somewhere around in here on the 1-minute chart. And we don't, since we're going long, we're not concerned with blue on the 1-minute chart, right? Because that would be, we said that that's a reversal going short entry. We're waiting for the chart to show us the green lines. Okay, and again, neither one of these Segredo charts are right side of the edge, but we're probably on close to a 1 at this point. But again, I got to tell you, and this is some cautionary advice. Don't jump the gun on this guy right here. This MACD, you need and you want this blue line to be trending upward, and you need and you want these 3 stochastics to be going up, and you need the same thing to be happening over here. Because if you don't, you'll be sitting in a trade for a long time, you'll get premature gray hair and a nice solid case of high blood pressure. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit. And now look, this is excellent. I start to get motivated. All right, I'm pausing it because I want to show you what we're looking at. For those of you that are clear traders and you use a 1 minute time frame and you use matchy-matchy on the higher time frames, you're excited about this because you like 50 degrees on the 13 moving average, you like a touching candle, and you like having three moving averages back your trade. But what we're looking at in the perfect trade is this. We've got a green HMA here. We've got one right there. We've got a green candle here. We've got one here. He's now trending upward. We like that. And he's not past the zero line. So we're happy about that. All three stochastics, even though they're not in the order that I would like, that being the 20 on top of all of this, leading the price action, but sometimes that just happens when this thing goes side to side, sideways. They're all three starting to go upward. This one's going to be a late bloomer, but he'll come up. And if you look over here, these three are starting to come up, and you can see that the MACD is trending upward. So, for those of you that they can understand the perfect trade criteria pretty quickly, do we have an entry at this point? Getting some yeses, some nos, not yet. Okay, cool. As you know, I like to have dialogue here. So, Linda, tell me what you're waiting for. Tell me what you're waiting for in order to feel confident and certain about this entry. To get this to present more closely what we're looking at. This is just so particular. Some of you are making comments about being nervous about this S4 barrier, and as well you should be. And there's a couple of other things that you should be nervous about as well. You see the angle of this 20? As long as it stays angled like this, it's absolutely going to reject the price action. What else is going to reject the price action on this chart? In this moment. And Oscar, you've mentioned this a few times. This is your moment to answer. Lewis, very good. Laura, very good. Blake, good. Great, guys. Yeah. We know that when the ship lands on the moon, it's going to bounce a little bit. This is a barrier. Okay? But what else do we know about the perfect trade? We know that the price action has been going down for quite some time. It's been going sideways, and now it's making a decision to go in the opposite direction. All right, so let's pull up our dome. Let's find the dome first. Let's make an entry. I'm going to turn the volume off because we don't need it. Can y'all still hear me, by the way? Good, okay. Okay, we're in. And now let's watch the price action. This is important, and when you drill this trade, I want you to watch what happens and drill it over and over and over again, so that if this trade, as part of the characteristics, as we know, all counter trends dilly-dally. I mean, this is all dilly-dally right here. We know that it's going to bounce off of this. We know it's going to bounce off the S4, and we know that the 20 is coming down with a vengeance at this point. And until this 20 flattens, it's not just going to go zooming up past this, right? But what we also know is if it does go through, look at all this room, which is great. So the reason I say you want to watch this and just let it play in real time when you're drilling it is because in the trade, you can't hit this button and speed it up and go ahead and take profit. What I want to encourage each of you to do is to practice how you would play the game, okay? And so we're sitting here and we're waiting. We're excited because we're great. We're in the profit for one tick. This thing could come down a couple ticks. It could come down to here. Quite possibly it could go further. These trades won't fill as fast as the clear trade or the trend trade that Melanie shows, because consider this to be like a gigantic boat that's trying to make a U-turn. It doesn't do it as fast as a Honda Civic does.
Well, that's after. That's why you couldn't get in there. You got the ticket. There's no problem.
Okay. So this one filled pretty quickly, all right? We entered the trade around 115 or 116, so it was about a 3.5-minute trade. And again, what I want to take a look at now that this trade is done is let's review why we got in, okay? On the NinjaTrader charts, we wanted to see a green HMA on the 5 and the 1. We got it. We wanted to see a green bar on both. We had it. We had momentum on the 1-minute chart. We had it on the 5-minute chart, but it ended. And then on the MACD, we did want to see that going upward. And in the moment that the trade came in, the MACD was trending upward. It was trending upward over here as well. As you can see, we entered on this bar, so if you go down here, there's where it was. Now that this is passed, we know we're done. We can sit on our hands and wait for our next moment, okay? What else were we looking at? We wanted all 3 stochastics going towards the 80 line. And now that we have some over the 80 line, this move is done. You know, we could possibly steal more ticks, but why would you want to? There's no guarantees. On the 5-minute chart, we have the 3 stochastics also going up, trending up towards the 80 line. And again, on the Segredo charts, what we wanted to see on the 1-minute chart before we pull a trigger on the 5-minute chart is we want to see green oscillators with green numbers. We want to see a green HMA with a green candle. And another big point on the 1-minute chart, if you'll notice, the HMA and the fast-moving average, they're trending upwards together. And we like seeing that. That gives us confidence. The other thing that I'll mention, especially on this candle right here, this bar, this 1, Melanie gave a fantastic class 2 weeks ago where she talked about how to stay out of fake-out trades just by watching the price action as it's related to the HMA. Now, when you're looking for a long trade and the price action is north of the HMA, that's fantastic. If this price action is north of the HMA, which is this line right here, you have no business going short.
It just has to be above.
Right? So, IPA says, you wait all that time for 3 ticks? I do. I do. And I've waited longer in some instances because I was impatient. I got in over here because I thought, yeah, I know what it's going to do. I've seen this a million times, blah, blah, blah. I drilled it 20 times yesterday. You know, I could tell that the price action's going to, you know, all of those things that we think we know, you know, because we're market makers. Yeah, I've sat in trades for, you know, these are 5-minute bars. You know, I've sat in a trade for 15 minutes before because I got in too early. I don't recommend it, by the way, IPA. I would say the trade that I just showed you was ideal. Like I said, be picky. Wait for it. Lewis wants to know, if I use 2 contracts in this case, would I have exited both at 3 ticks? Yeah, I would have. Now here's the thing. So some of you probably have this curiosity, as I did, the first time I saw this and the first time I started messing around with this trade. How many ticks can you go for? Because some of you would like to get more, and that's totally fine. And here's what Barbara told me. When these 2 charts are in sync, you can get more ticks. So for those of you that would like to do a 3-6 trade, such as the trade that Melanie talks about, and for those of you that are not familiar with that, let me illustrate what that is for you really quickly. A 3-6 trade looks like this. Let's say you're going long. You would need 2 contracts or more in order to execute this trade. Okay. You would enter here with 2 contracts, and then once you've entered into the market, you lower your quantity to 1, and your first profit target is at 3, and your next profit target's at 6. And so when the price action hits this, you've now been fulfilled and you've made money, and it'll say 37.50 down here. And then you're going to wait, and obviously it's going to take a little bit longer because you're asking the market to go up more, and it's going to take time. And then it takes your second target out at 6 ticks. And that's what the 3-6 trade is. So again, to repeat, when the 5-minute and the 1-minute NinjaTrader charts are in sync, and we talked about that, panel 1, 2, and 3, all of them in sync together, you can get 6 ticks. I personally go for 3 for a couple of reasons. One, I'm an instant gratification guy. I want to get out and be profitable as quickly as possible. 1, 2, it's the summertime. It's a little slower. You got the summer doldrums going on, and so until September, until they're heating back up, I don't know that I'll even think about doing a 6 ticker. But again, I just like to get out early. I like to have my money in my hand. Some of you may want to go for just 2 ticks. And for those of you that have been skinned by the market, which was, you skinned yourself by the decisions that you made, but the market took you, right? And you're easing back in the market. Some of the best advice I ever got from Melanie, and she talks about this in the classroom, just go in for 1 tick. Just go in for 1 tick and do it until you absolutely feel comfortable, and then maybe stretch it out to 2 on the next trade until you're comfortable, and so on and so on and so on. All right, so let's pull up a different trade on the 6C, a different time. We're going to do the perfect trade again, but we're going to do a different time frame because I want you to see how it can look. Let me take a look at the questions really quickly before I make a transition. Tim, good question. Do you want a 1, 2, or 3 on both the 1-minute and the 5-minute? You don't have to have that, and I don't even know if that was possible in this trade because I can't get right side of the edge, and this doesn't have replay perfectly in sync with the NinjaTrader charts. If you can get it, that's awesome. But I don't know that it would happen all the time. So Tim, don't expect that. What I will say is, we know that if it's a 1 or 2 or a 3 on the 1-minute chart, it's at the beginning of the cycle. A 4, 5, and 6 is going to be in the middle, and a 6, 7, and 8 is going to be towards the end. So hopefully that helps. Monica wants to know when I trade. I work from 8 to 5, and I trade at night. So at night, what I watch is the Aussie dollar and the Japanese yen. They have a tendency to do similar things at similar times, and oftentimes I'm able to get 2 trades, not at the same time, but 2 trades, and then I can just turn my machine off, walk away, and enjoy the rest of my evening. Shake, yes, I only do perfect trades. I've tried to do a bunch of other different trades. I can execute a gap close. I can execute a clear trade sometimes, but I like the perfect trade because it's a combination of a clear trade and a gap close that's moving into a reversal. Okay, everyone, bear with me for just a second here. I'm going to read a question that I don't quite understand just yet. Okay, Peter wants to know if I can discuss what to look for to tell me that the perfect trade is likely to be over. He's not talking about how much it's moved against me, but in terms of profit and whether there might be, I'm probably adding to this, Peter, but are you also wanting to know how to figure out whether there's still more gas in the engine, if you will, or more ticks to be had, or whether it's getting ready to move against me? Okay, cool. So the easiest answer to that question, Peter, that tells me that this trade is over, is that right there. I'm done. Okay. Now again, it's a slower time period. It's a summer doldrums. I personally like 3, but you know what? If we were to continue to let this thing play out, it probably goes for more. And like Barb said, the 1 minute and the 5 minute, when they're in sync, they can go for 6 ticks. And let's just watch this. Let's see what happens. And by playing this, hopefully that'll help you also, Peter, see what this thing does, and it might give you an indication as to when it's over. I'll tell you, if I hadn't gotten filled at this point, I'm a little nervous just for a couple of reasons. Not because anything is mismatched, because this 20 and this S4, okay, they can be formidable barriers, okay? Again, the price doesn't easily penetrate the 20 unless the 20 moving average is flat, or if it's running parallel, meaning upward, to the 13. Hopefully that makes sense, but let's let this continue to play out so we can see what the price action does. I think that most of you could have anticipated that it was going to bounce off the S4. We can see the 100 moving average coming in. That's going to be a barrier as well, which is going to cause some dilly-dally. To speed it up a little bit more.
Someone asked how long you could go on the trade. He said, I don't know.
And by the way, I'm pausing this for a second. Oscar, we have a cross beginning. And like I said, some of you are not going to feel comfortable until you see the cross. And some of you are not going to feel comfortable ever, until everything is just absolutely perfect. But you know what? Unfortunately, every moment in the market's unique, and sometimes you just don't get every single thing that you're always looking at. That's why I'm trying to show you the most simple indicators for entry as they were communicated to me from Barbara. Okay, so now we see that the price action is starting to try to penetrate the 100, and it has now, as well as the S4. And so, could we have stayed into this for 6 ticks? Yeah. But there would have been a lot of fighting going on. We would have stayed in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 extra minutes, right? Just because it hits the 97 mark doesn't mean it fills you, but that would have been the extra 3 ticks that we needed. But we know once it goes up to 98 that it has to fill you in order to go to the next level. So Peter, I hope that I appropriately addressed your question. Robert wants to know what is the symbol on Segredo for the Aussie dollar. It's ADU 13. Dan wants to know when I trade. 6 p.m. Central Standard Time to whenever I get my 3 ticks. And by the way, some of you are saying 3 ticks. Barbara's cat could get 3 ticks, dude. I'm at 3 ticks because my path requires me right now to stay absolutely disciplined and to prove to Melanie that day in and day out I can get 3 ticks and log off. Some of you are not on the same path, obviously, or on path. And some of you can do 2 trades in a night. But for me, 2 equals 3, 3 equals 4. I turn into Mr., cocky, and then next thing you know, I'm calling back AMP and saying, hey, can I please give you some more money? So because I don't want to keep calling AMP and seeing how much I can donate not only to my broker's commission, but anyone in the market that is earning money as a result of my mistakes, this year is the year that I'm looking to make some withdrawals, if you know what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters. I'm talking about, and can I get an amen if you're going to make some withdrawals this year? Meaning, you're going to call your broker and say, wire me X amount of money, please, because I'm going to San Francisco for lunch, or whatever, right? Yeah, this is our year. This is our year, folks, all right? We're going to do it together. We're going to do it together. It requires discipline.
I think he's single.
Some of you are asking if I wait for the 5-minute candle to close. I don't. I just don't. You could, because again, the cool thing about the 5-minute chart is it's slower. It's not like the 1-minute chart. So you don't have a machete. You're not in the jungle. It's not a, oh, you just missed it. There's time here. There's time here. We watch this price action go up and down, right? And on the quant, you're looking for a 1, a 2, or a 3. All right. So let's go to our next opportunity, which is actually earlier in the day. This one's going to look a little bit different. We're going to take some time to talk about this one. This may take a second to reload just because I'm powering the Stegretto Live with a banana. Yeah, as you can see, we're still waiting. In the meantime, I'll adjust my quant chart. No. Okay. Let's spread this out a little bit. What do you say? That's not going to work. All right. So the time is 7:25, and on the quant it's 8:30 because it's an hour ahead. Okay. Now again, not all perfect trades look exactly the same every single time. As you know, every moment in the market is unique, and you really got to be present to understand that there are differences and similarities within the markets. So, I'm getting from some of you that there's no audio. Is there audio? Can you hear me? Okay. Tom, what I think you're experiencing is as the charts were changing and everything was doing what it was doing, sometimes it just decides to kick me out of the room, which I guess is fine. I won't take that personally. All right, so this is this morning. It's on the euro. And now what we have is an opportunity. We're looking at an opportunity to go short. All right, so let's look at these two charts again. We're waiting for the HMA to be red this time. We would like to see a red candle on the 5-minute chart. We want this MACD blue line to be going down towards this 0 line, and we want these 3 stochastics to be going down towards the 20 line. And of course, over here, this is already, we can check this one off the list. The HMA is red, so that's fantastic. Ideally, we'd like to see a red candle over here once we decide to pull the trigger on the 5-minute chart. The MACD is trending downward, and we're close to a MACD cross on the 1-minute. The good thing is that it's not at the 0 line yet. And we've got 3 stochastics that are closer together than they were on the other trade, so I like that. The closer together, the better. When you see them close, especially when you see them close on the 1 and the 5, man, that's, as Barb would say, that's hot. That's hot. That's a hot trade. So we're just waiting on a couple things to come in on this trade, on these charts in particular, in order to enter this trade. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And remember, the key to not getting faked out, step 1 is to be patient. And in parentheses, make the market, make the chart give you whatever it is that you personally desire to enter the trade with confidence and certainty. If you feel a little uneasy or a little confused or a little nervous or there's something you're not sure about, wait. Wait. Don't force the trade. You are not going to tell this market when it's time to go north and when it's time to go south or short and long. You just have to wait it out. And so if you look on the quant, what we're going to be looking for is a red HMA. We need a 1, a 2, or a 3. We want a red candle. And see how the HMA is starting to change? I'm going to hit pause for a second because I want to explain both of these charts. But by the way, now is go time. And I'll explain why before we get in. I like that the HMA and the fast-moving average are trending downward together, and it's doing it on both charts. Okay? Red HMA, red HMA. HMA and fast-moving average trending downward on this one. It's doing it on this one, which is fantastic. Now, for perfect trades, we are looking for a blue oscillator with a red 1. This is not an entry right here because it's red on red. This would be an entry for a clear trader, but a perfect trade begins earlier. So we see a red 1 with a blue oscillator on the 5, and we see this red candle with the red HMA and the fast-moving average. We quickly glance over here. We see matchy-matchy up here. Looks like it's probably at a 5 or a 6, I would say, on the sequence. But this one went all the way to 8. We know that after the fact, but in the moment, it's on a 5 or a 6, and that's what we want to see. We want to see red on red. Okay? Red indicates selling strength. Enter for a short entry. Now, it's time to get in this thing because the HMA is in the process of turning red. I know that the candle's not closed yet. We still have 2.5 minutes. But I like the fact that the 13 is now starting to trend downward, and I know that the price action is causing that. But I like the fact that the MACD is starting to trend downward, and that these guys are starting to commit. This guy is a little slow bloomer. He's going to move, but I like what I see right here. And by the way, this is a short window of entry. I mean, yeah, you could get in and you can see that the price action definitely does what it does. But in terms of, you know, this is a 5-minute long notification right here. Okay, and sometimes I'll tell you in the moment, it's possible that this one could have been green for a minute, which would have said no entry. But the second that it turns red and we see the price action shoot south of the HMA, that's exciting. So we look over here, we see this. So we look over here, we see this. And this is fantastic. The stochastics are starting to get close to the 20, so my time is running out. But all three are trending downward, which we have to have. And we have to have this MACD trending down to the center line, which is where the 0 is, but not past it. So let's pull up the dome. And we'll never find the dome on Mozilla Firefox because it's not on there.
Totally perfect. The HMA at 5 minutes is not red.
I do level 0 entries, by the way. I just like to hop in. And I'm immediately just going to enter my exit at 3 ticks over here. And let's sit and watch.
Do level 2. Try to go very fast.
Okay, so IPA would like for me to warn all of you that at 9 a.m. is U.S. dollar news, and they want me to warn you to always be aware of the news and to be ready to be in and out early. Yes, that's true. You know, before you trade, you know, part of your daily regimen, one of the first things that you'll do is you'll go to forexfactory.com. and you'll take a look at what news items are going to affect whatever it is you're trading. Okay, so you know, if you trade the euro, you want to be cognizant of both American and euro news because we know that the euro is affected by that. You know, if you like to trade the Aussie dollar, pay attention to the Aussie news. If you'd like to trade Japanese yen, pay attention to those. But be sure to check Forex Factory every single day, because the last thing you want to do is be on the wrong side of a trade or be in a trade at the moment that the news breaks. So as we can see, that was a fairly quick trade. Okay. I'm actually quite surprised that this 20 moving average right here and the R1 didn't reject it. But I think because of this price action and then the corresponding price action afterwards, it caused this to go flat. Therefore, it went right through. Now we know that the 50 is definitely going to be a barrier. So again, let's review what we were looking at in the moment. We saw that the HMA was turning red, and it was already red over here. We saw a red candle. We had red candles over here with momentum. We wanted the MACD to be trending down towards the center line on both the 5-minute and the 1-minute, and we got it. And then we wanted the 3 stochastics. You know, this one's not making a super dive, but it is trending downward. But we want all 3 stochastics to be trending towards the 20 line, and we want to see the same thing over here. Now, if these stochastics had reached the 20, I wouldn't have taken the trade. I don't care if this thing would have shot all the way down to, I don't know, to this barrier right here. I wouldn't have taken it. You know, because the whole premise for this perfect trade is that 1, it doesn't happen as frequently as other trades happen, and 2, you want the 5-minute and the 1-minute in sync. They're doing a dance. Not in sync, no trade. Sit on your hands and wait, and make the market give you exactly what you need in order to get in on this trade, and do it with confidence. Okay, Sean, what is a 0 level entry, or level 0 entry? A level 0 entry is, this is level 0 right here. You know, if we're going short, level 0 is right here. Level 1 is right there. Level 2 is right there.
You don't need it.
Each one of you is going to have your own comfort level as to where you want to get in. You've watched the price action go up and down. Some of you are going to prefer, hey man, I want to make the market give me a tick right off the bat, so I'm going to enter at level 1. Some of you are going to want to enter at level 2. Okay? I like to get in, so I just hop in at level 0. Do I use the 1 minute quant? Mike, yes I do. Absolutely. And I'll tell you what I was looking for in the 1 minute quant. I want to see red. I want to see a red HMA. I want to see red candles. And I like it when the candle action is south of the HMA when I'm trying to go short. And then down here, I want to see red on red. And I saw that. If I had seen blue on red, I'm waiting. I want to see the split happen to where now the oscillator is down on the bottom half, not the upper half, and I want to see red on red. Dan wants to know, how often can I find 2 perfect trades in 2 hours? Would not imagine not too often. Well, Dan, if you like to trade the currencies, sometimes you can execute a trade on all 3 currencies, or however many currencies you're looking at. Let's just say it was the euro, the yen, and the Aussie dollar. Sometimes you can get that in 20 minutes. Because we know that the currencies oftentimes they mimic each other. So I wouldn't say that it's not too often, but I will say that this particular manifestation on this particular instrument, it's not happening every 45 minutes. I mean, this thing has been going down for, at this point, almost an hour. And that's the key. The easiest way to spot these bad boys is when you look at your 5-minute chart, you know, hey man, this has been going up for a while. Surely this thing's going to tucker out. Surely it's going to want to reverse. And then you look down and you can see the same thing occurring on your MACD. Wow, this thing has been going up for a while. And then as soon as you start to see this blue line and everything else fall in, you know, it's my turn. It's my time. A couple more questions. Let's see. All I look for is 3 ticks on a perfect trade on the 6J or 6A at 6 p.m. Right? Okay, Eddie. Eddie wants to know, am I just looking for 3 ticks on a perfect trade on the 6J, which is the yen, and the 6A, which is the Aussie dollar, at 6 p.m. every night? Yes, that is essentially, Eddie, that is my trading plan. I get home, I say hello to my wife. My wife knows what's getting ready to happen, so I'm not ignoring her. I sit down and I turn on my computer screens. I look at the news, make sure that the yen and the Aussie dollar aren't doing anything to cause me to make further donations to their trading plan. And then I bring up my charts. I take a look at what happened, you know, right before the market closed. And then I sit and I wait. And I wait for just what I've shown you on this particular trade from the euro this morning. I'm waiting for the price action to go in one particular direction for a while, and then I just sit and wait. And I'll vacillate, meaning I'll switch my screens from 6A to 6J, and I just go back and forth. And then I also look at them on the quant, on the second screen. And then as soon as I get my entry, whether it's on the yen or the Aussie dollar, I'm off. I'm off. I get my 3 ticks and I'm done. And again, some of you are saying, dude, Barbara's cat or Melanie's dogs can get 3 ticks, man. You know, you're not going to be able to retire until you're 187 on that plan. Well, that's not true. And as all of you know, this game is not about seeing how many trades you can take. Yeah, if you're personally comfortable doing 2 trades or 3 trades a day, by all means, go for it. If that is part of your trading plan, go for it. But the game is about stacking contracts. You know, Melanie went from 1 contract to 2 to 5 to 10 and so on. She wasn't trying, and you know, I'm going to make a big guess here. I'm going to make a big bet that most of you once you're really good at this, you're going to try to figure out how much more efficient you can get. And what I mean by that is, I'll bet that most of you are not trying to see how much time you can spend staring at these dadgum charts.
No,
Am I right? I mean, I think most of us hopped into this game because we thought, you know what, in a couple of hours, exactly how I had it set up when we were simming it. It sits right there. So I'm looking left to right, left to right. Melanie talks about this a lot in her classrooms. You know, you want to have your screen set up to where you're having to do this more than you're having to do up and down, up and down. And so that's why I chose to have 3 panels, and it's easy to see synchronicity between the two. Raj wants to know what HMA stands for. It stands for Hull Moving Average. So it, like the 13, is a moving average, and it was developed by a mathematician named, I don't remember his first name, but so we'll just call him Mr. Hull. IPA, you know, one of the things I love about this group is that we're all here helping each other. You know, just because I'm directing this webinar doesn't mean that I'm the only person that can help you. Many of you are fantastic help to each other in the forms of your questions and suggestions. Another good point that I didn't think of, but IPA thought of, is that, yeah, the quant can also keep you out of trouble. How can it keep you out of trouble? Well, for example, I'll give you another caution. You want to stay, okay, let me figure out how I'm going to explain this to you. It's clear right now that the price action is going, and it's been going in this direction for quite some time, and we know at some point it's going to cross back up. Let's move this. That the HMA is going to cross back up above the fast-moving average. And sometimes we like to guess that it's going to happen or predict that it's going to happen, and this quant can keep you out of getting into that too early. One of the things that I'm noticing in my drilling is that you want to stay away from entering too close to these red oscillators. For example, let's say that this was a 7, as it is, and this was a yellow oscillator with a green 1. I may not take that trade. Why? Because we know that counter trend trades dilly-dally. Right? We got a gap close in the making. It hasn't really closed. Well, it did close here. So, and we don't see the HMA crossing. So we really, you can look at that if this were a 1 and this were a 1, and that would keep you out of getting into the trade too early. And in fact, if we just continue to watch the price action, that's kind of what it does. It's da 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 da. It never really gave us anything that was really tradable. Yeah, there's a green 1 with an oscillator here, but I'd be curious to know what it looked like on the 5. May not look that good. And I'd also be curious to know how this would match with the NinjaTrader charts. Again, it all has to fit together. If it doesn't fit together, I'm not making a donation. We're all showing up to this game to make withdrawals. Okay? It's our turn to make withdrawals. Even those of you that have made the same mistake 38 times, it's your turn. It's totally your turn. See, again, more help from those of you in the room. Oscar says the Christmas signals keep you out of trouble. And what he's referring to is this right here. I'll use another drawing tool. Christmas. Red and green. No good. Not going to work. And then sometimes you'll see green numbers on red oscillators down here. And if that were the case, then I would say not good. This is definitely not good. Hopefully that makes sense by what Oscar meant when he said Christmas signals keep you out of trouble. And by the way, MR, Mr., I guess we'll call you, tells me that the HMA was made by Alan Hull, so thank you very much. So Peter wants to know, what can you use as an additional confirmation if you don't have the quant and you only have NinjaTrader charts? Let me go back to the arrow because I can't select anything unless I turn the marker into an arrow.
You can tell me.
Okay, pretend there's no quant. And the world became very sad because now we're retail traders and we still don't have the advantage of all of the other HMAs and quants out there. You know, I guess, Peter, the only thing I'm looking for on the perfect trade setup is I hate using this word, but I'm looking for perfection. I want to make sure, I want to wait for all things to be in line. Red HMAs are matching on the 1 and 5. We've got red bars matching on the 1 and 5. The MACD and the stochastics. Those are really all you have to go with. And by the way, these are the only things that Barbara coached me to have on my chart. So if there were other things that could be on the chart that would be helpful in the pursuit of mastering the perfect trade, whether that's for 3 ticks or 6 ticks, she would have told me, and I'd be covering that in my class. So unfortunately, I don't have any other suggestions other than make this chart give you exactly what you need. Yep, you bet. Tim says staying away from flat 13 EMAs will help keep you out of trouble. That's so true.
13
Okay, Tom, can you please go over the 5-minute Segredo at 9:15? 9:15. Okay, so hopefully this folds into what we were talking about in terms of trading too close to these red oscillators. Yeah, this is too close to the red oscillators for my liking, so I'm going to let that go on by, even if it were to turn into a 2 and a 3 and it started, you know, up, up, up and away, and this was a yellow, you know, bar with a green 2. I'm staying out.
Laura, thank you very much.
Huh. Laura, thank you very much. So Peter, an answer to your question about using an additional confirmation if you don't have the charts, Laura suggests perhaps adding a 15-minute with the red bar, meaning the red HMA, I presume. Is that what you meant, Laura? Again, I use the 5 and 1 because that's what Barbara told me, and I'm trying not to add anything else in because in the past when I've done it, I've ended up losing money. But that doesn't suggest that by adding the 15 you're going to lose money. What I would suggest is that, you know, Peter, take a 1, a 5, and a 15 and wait for them to show matchy-matchy. Wait for the moments for them to sync up and drill the trade over and over and over and over and over again and keep the math on it, you know, meaning track how much, how successful you are, and if that works for you, then maybe there's your additional confirmation.
Okay, so what Laura meant was,
you could have a 5-minute or a 15-minute chart up, and you would be looking for a matching candle. You know, and Melanie talks a lot about matching candles. She uses the word matchy-matchy, and she's talking about candles a lot of the time.
Sean, you're absolutely right. 9:15.
Sean, you're absolutely right. 9:15, stay away because it's the first gap close.
All right, now let's take a...
That's right.
All right, now let's take a... We definitely still have some time, so I'm going to show you a couple trades on the Aussie dollar.
No, that was the first gap closing. You know, Melanie doesn't believe it's a good point.
Oh.
Alan, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Scott wants to know, does the 6Y leave the 6A? I don't know. I'm not. I know that they act similarly a lot of the time.
He sounds like he's uneducated.
And you know, the Aussies, they trade in the American evening times, and so do Chinese. They can't trade during the day. That was the initial reason why I chose the Aussie dollar and the Japanese yen. Now, a little word about the Japanese yen and the Aussie dollar at night. They don't always move that quickly. but that doesn't mean that the algorithm is any different. What it means is that when there's time added into anything, it's going to cause your mind to go berserk and create all kinds of stories like, well, are you sure about this? You probably just made another donation, or whatever your mind, whatever stories you tell yourself while you're sitting in a trade. But I've watched the Aussie dollar and the Japanese yen during the day while I'm working. Don't tell my boss. And it moves a little bit faster during the day, right? Because everything's cranking. Everyone's in the game. Everyone's shown up, and the market often mimics what we're doing here in America. So here we are. Let me make sure I pull up the right time. This is not anywhere near what I was wanting to show you. Noel wants to know, as a sidebar, when is the next intro on Tuesday for new folks? Let's take a look.
The skunk has
Show this.
different. I hope it's not inside.
I don't know. The date says July 9th.
I don't know. The date says July 9th. So, Noel, what I want you to do is send an email.
For the person.
Shadow.
To Shadow Traders. So take a look. Shadow support.
She must be a waiver.
Yeah.
Traders.com. Well, I want you to send an email there, and hopefully you will get your answer there. Okay. Some of you were saying my sound is starting to break. Is that fixed?
It's a hope spot skunk.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, when I'm loading my charts.
All right. Yeah, when I'm loading my charts, it for some reason wants to boot me out of the room. I need to get a computer that has 158 gigabyte processor. Gigabyte, megabyte, whatever. Okay. I'm just gonna scroll back. Okay, Eddie wants to see me make a trade on the 6J or 6A in real time. That provides me a great opportunity to share with you that since last week I've learned that there are heavy regulations against those who are not licensed to be able to do live trades. And so therefore, in my classes, you'll only see, until I get licensed, me taking trades on the REIT. Yeah, I've learned regulations, so I'm going to choose to follow those. And the good thing about replay is we can achieve more repetition. We can manipulate our time much better. Okay, so put your attention on these two charts right here. And as I told you before, every moment in the market is its own unique moment, and sometimes these trades, these perfect trades, show up with different characteristics. This one looks a little bit different. If we look on the 1-minute chart, look how close we are to that center line. That means that the window is closing. Obviously, a new trend is beginning because the 13 is crossing the 50. So we feel confident that the trend is going in this direction. We also see, if you see that says 77.14, we've got some stochastics that are reaching the 80 line on the 1-minute chart. And as I told you, once these stochastics are above the 80 line, that's a key indicator to just wait. wait for them to get, for both of these to get back into sync. You know, these are nowhere near the 80 line, but the three of them are trending upward, which we like. We like the trend going up on the MACD. We like green HMAs with green bars. We know that this is a barrier. We know that this is a barrier, so if it happens to run into these, you're going to see some bouncing because that's what counter trends and reversals do. But over here, if we look, we got green HMA with green price bars, and we're close to the MACD. Now, so we've taken a look at the NinjaTrader charts. Dan, I don't know specifically what license is required. That's a quick, easy one I can answer while I'm trying to maneuver here. We're going to get rid of these 2 Euro charts. And we'll bring up some Aussie charts, which was a terrible Aussie accent, and I will not do that again. Sorry, everybody. Okay. All right, for those of you that are worried that the biscuit goes to 8:30, we're going to see this one through for sure. Never leave a fellow shadow trader hanging. That's part of the code. I'm sure all of you have this tattooed somewhere on you. That's what we did in a 4-day or 3-day or 2-day, whichever one you took. I took a 3-day, which was back in 2006. That tells you how long I've been at it. Again, I won't be able to get this right side of the edge. I do want to make sure that we can conserve some time. I want to be able to go through this in detail with you, and I want to be able to review it, because when we talk about it, when we do it, and we review it, repetition is taking place, and your ability to assimilate this and use it improves dramatically. So,
James, yeah, thank you. I will absolutely work.
James, yeah, thank you. I will absolutely work on the Australian accent. I don't know if I'm at a disadvantage from the start because I'm Texan, but I'll work on it. I'll work on it. It's such a unique and beautiful accent. I worked with someone from Australia who owns a yoga franchise here in Texas, and I used to just I would say anything to her to get her to talk, because I think that the accent is fantastic.
Almost there. Appreciate your patience, everybody.
Almost there. Appreciate your patience, everybody. All right. The scrunched up version. All right.
Alan representing Lubbock, Texas tonight.
We got Alan representing Lubbock, Texas tonight. Hello, West Texas. Alan, does that automatically make you a Red Raider fan?
Barbara wants to know where I'm at. I'm in Dallas.
Barbara wants to know where I'm at. I'm in Dallas.
To be clear, Alan is not a Red Raider.
To be clear, Alan is not a Red Raider fan. Okay. All right, enough Texan humor. We're as proud as our own state as it is. We probably don't want to annoy everybody by talking more about it. Okay. Here's a perfect trade on the Aussie dollar that showed up my time, 1 o'clock, which is 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Who can tell me from their training what happens, not every day, but a lot of the times at 2 o'clock Eastern? I'm going to have to have Melanie mail out cookies to all of you that are answering in reversal. You got this right. Very good job. Kurt, you said run up. That's not true. It doesn't always go up. It's a reversal. It's a reversal that happens at 2 o'clock. Bob says, I get the Melanie spoon. I'll tell you what, you don't want to get it too often. because that means you're making lots of donations, my brother. Okay. Now, we've looked at the NinjaTrader charts. We know what we need to see. Everything is in, meaning it's there. It showed up. All right. Now let's take a look at and review what we need to see on the 1 minute and 5 minute Segredo charts. Remember, when we're going long on a perfect trade, on the 1 minute chart, we want to see green bars with green numbers. And a 1, 2, 3, or 4 is preferred, right? Because if the cycle goes to 8, and we know that 8 begins a gap close, that might make us a little nervous as we're looking back over here, because we think, well, the price action may just come back down, which is okay. Maybe it would turn back to green and give you a 1 and go back that way, and it would come back and give you a yellow oscillator and a green number. But without being too confusing, we want to see green bars, green numbers, and if we can get the numbers to be in sync on these two, that's hot, as Barbara would say. Now, the 5 minute chart is my trigger chart. What does that mean? That means that I'm waiting to see what I need to see on this chart in order to pull the trigger. I'm looking for a 1, a 2, or a 3. I want to see a green HMA. I want green candles. I got them. And I want to see a 1 or 2 or 3 in green with a yellow oscillator down here. So we have what we need. Let's pull up our dome and enter the trade. I'm going to let this play on regular speed for a little bit, or for a minute. Try to say those both, and that's how it comes out. Just to give you an idea of what the price action looks like when you're in a perfect trade. And again, I strongly encourage you to drill this over and over again. When Barbara first taught everybody the perfect trade, and I fell in love with it, and I would drill an entry 20 times in a row. And it's easy to do on the replay because you just go back up here and reset the time, right? You just go back up here and type in the time that you need. But if I'm in the trade, I'm starting to get excited, and I'm actually, with my hand, I'm trying to push this up, but it doesn't want to seem to go up. Do y'all ever do that? No, y'all don't. You're patient. You know you can't push the market. No. Oh, and then it goes back down, and I'm like, oh, no, you're going the wrong way. We want to. So you take your mouse and you try and push it up, but it doesn't work. All right, now as I'm in the trade, there's a couple things I'm looking for. On the 5 minute end, I know that this is my next barrier. I can see that we haven't quite penetrated the 13 yet, which is fine, so I'm just going to expect a little more dilly-dally. And over here what I like is that in the second that I try to minimize this, it's going to knock these two off. But there's got to be some clear room here, and I know my next barrier is the 200 moving average, because right now what's occurring, and you can learn more about this in your self-paced course, these are moving average crosses. The 13's already crossed the 20 successfully, and now it's also crossed the 50 successfully. So essentially a new trend has begun. And so, you know, there's patience before the trade arrives, and then there's also patience while in the trade. You know, allow this market to give you 3 ticks. I could easily, to help satisfy my psyche, move this down and get me out right now. But it's not on my trading plan, and I know, because I've drilled this trade over and over and over again, that when these two charts are in sync, I can get anywhere from 3 to 6 ticks safely. So I'm going to wait. And boom. Okay. So we entered the trade at 1 o'clock, and we were in it for 2.5 minutes. So we made $30 in 2.5 minutes.
Of course, that's not taking into account
Of course, that's not taking into account commissions,
That's a pretty decent
but
hourly rate.
that's a pretty decent hourly rate
Contract, right?
just on one contract, right?
So if this said 10,
So if this said 10
that would be
in the box, then that would be 300, and you made 300
47.
in 2 minutes and 47 seconds.
Do any of your friends make that?
Do any of your friends make that?
Well, that's where this boat is headed.
Well, that's where this boat is headed. Again, it is our turn to make withdrawals and have someone donate to our trading plan instead of us donating to theirs. All right. So I said I was going to end early, and if you look at my clock, I'm over, so I apologize.